Welcome to the History of Diving Museum for our December Immerse Yourself. It's always held on the third Wednesday of every month. We are located in the beautiful Florida Keys at mile marker 83. So for those of you that are on Zoom and participating virtually, we encourage you to don't drive by, dive in on your next trip to the Keys. For those of you that are here, how many of you are here for the first time at the History of Diving Museum? Okay, excellent. Do we have any people from out of the country? We get a lot of international travelers this time of year, out of state. Okay, a couple out of state and a couple locals. That means that's the rest. All right. So welcome again. We want to thank our sponsors for tonight, John and Colleen Hazelbaker and Hammerhead Marine Services, for sponsoring our Immerse Yourself program tonight. We appreciate our sponsors, so are always looking for 2024 as well. I mentioned that the Aquanauts to Astronauts exhibit is going to be open till December 31st. Dive into Art Coral Creations will open January 17th. We have Jerry Garcia drawing tickets for stocking stuffers. We have unique items in the museum store, unique items online. So for any of that last minute year-end giving, feel free to check out divingmuseum.org or see our lovely associate when you leave this evening. Next month, as I mentioned, we're going to open Dive into Art Coral Creations. Our speakers will be Maddie and JD. They are on Mission Iconic Reefs, and they're in charge of the Reef Guardians program. So it will complement our coral creations. We're going to be having some information from the various different coral practitioners and what they're doing to help restore the reefs in the Florida Keys. And tonight we have Mark Sharky Alexander. Not only is he on our board, yeah, he is also in the Explorers Club, public safety, retired public safety diver, and currently living with his family in the Keys. And he's going to be talking to us about a mission to find the last missing W.A.S.P. And for those of you who don't know, W.A.S.P stands for
Women Airforce Service Pilots.
Women Airforce Service Pilots. And we appreciate you giving us this information. It's really a wealth of a new topic that that divers can get involved in.
Yeah, I mean, it's still going on. And when I started asking around some of the team members for some other photos and some maps, are we going to start doing it again? And I'm like, I'd love to. I'd love to.
Good.
So it's really cool.
So for those of you that are here, if you have any questions, we'll be having a Q&A at the end. Again, if you're online, tell us who you are, where you are at, how many people are with you, and feel free to put those questions in the chat. Thank you, Mark.
All right. Thank you. All right, guys, without any ending, we'll go ahead and start on our presentation this evening. So the WASPs, I wanted to set this program up, and I apologize for my voice the way it is. All right, so WASPs. When you hear of WASP, what do you think of?
White males.
Okay. Or the insect, something like that. So that was one of the things that really got me interested in the expedition, because I am a veteran, 20 years, 4 tours to the desert and Air Force. And so I love airplanes. And this one really got my attention when my friends were asking for help, diving deep. Now you talk about divers in the community. You got this many divers dive all over the world. And you got your commercial divers. And then you got your technical divers. So we all kind of know each other. Guys that dive mixed gas rebreathers, 300 plus feet. We all kind of like, hey man, can you give me a hand on this expedition? So my, excuse me, Mike Pizzio got a really good team together out in California, and we came together on this. What I liked about it was during World War II, there were so many avenues for females to help out in the industry. Okay, either what was the lady
Rosie the Riveter,
and different things like that. Everybody had their part. Okay, everyone thought maybe they're in the hospital all the time. No, they weren't. They were in the industry. They were soldering radios. I found out my mother-in-law, she was soldering radios during World War II. I didn't know that. And so, I mean, so everybody played their part. So you can see here, you know, the WASPs, Women Airforce Service Pilots, okay? There were a lot of females that were pilots and they were very good, all right? But back in the day, they weren't allowed in combat. Then you have your auxiliary army, then you have the Navy reserves. So every branch of military had some kind of a branch for the women so they could come in and help out and put their part in, which I think is amazing. So you can see here where obviously our topic now is the WASP, Women Air Force Service Pilots, okay? During 1942 to 44, these ladies would basically, there was that many, 25,000 women applied. That blew me away when you start, because I was a diver, you know, I was diving and we're looking for stuff. We didn't really see the backside of it until we started doing the research, okay, on Gertrude and then talking to Gertrude's family. It was just mind numbing. And then you see how 1,830 were accepted for training, okay? Well, a lot of them wanted to keep their training quiet. You know, they wanted, but then some of them like Gertrude, they call her Gertrude Thomkins Silver. So they were based all over the United States. This particular aircraft that they were ferrying, this ferried various aircraft, but it's the P-51D Mustang. You know, anything about aircraft, it is amazing. And you saw the Top Gun, the new one, the Maverick in the very end when Tom Cruise was flying, that's a P-51, okay? It is sleek and awesome. But they would ferry, you know, these aircraft from California all the way to New Jersey. And then at that point, they would fly them over, the men would fly them over to combat in Europe. Anyway, the cartoon you see right there was designed by Walt Disney. And that's Fifi.
Thank you, Julia.
Thanks, Julia. You're awesome. So yeah, I thought that was really cool. And so yeah, Walt Disney had something to do with it. So yeah, they made the Fifi. And then the WASP wings were the diamond. Okay, so you see Air Force wings or Naval Aviator wings, they have the globe and anchor for naval. Then Air Force, you have the US crest in the middle. They have the diamond. All right. So out of all of the WASPs, all of them were accounted for except for Gertrude. Okay, this is Gertrude Thomkins Silver. She disappeared October 26th, 1944. And I use this, I've actually gotten free lunch and dinner out of people on this bet. LAX was also known as Mines Field back in World War II. So you throw that out there, you ask them, hey, you know where Mines Field is? And they're like, well, no. Did you ever fly out of LA? Yeah. Now you know. So anyway, so yeah, so Mines Field, and then they would head to Palm Springs. Okay, so that was their leg. And then they take off westbound, so they go out over the ocean. So if you've ever flown out of LAX, you take off and you'd either, you know, hard to port, hard to starboard, you know, however they're going to be coming back in over land. Okay. But then when she took off, that was it. They have no idea. So that's where the mystery is. So she had some other issues with the aircraft before she took off. One of them was a canopy issue. So they were doing some runs a couple of days earlier, and they were having some canopy issues. So they got it fixed, they hope. And that was probably one of them. Also, if you've ever been out California diving or by boat or anything like that, you get some very thick fog banks. And during the expedition, we actually had some fog banks that rolled in that I couldn't see John from the boat. You had no idea where you're at. So it's totally disorienting. Also, you could have problems with your fuel and your fuselage, engine failure, you know, just various other things. We all know that either with aviation or in marine tech. Okay. So also, there is a memorial plaque at LAX on Gertrude, because she is the last missing WASP. And their motto was, we live in the wind, in the sand, and our eyes are at the stars, are on the stars. So, I mean, she was a pioneer. All of them were pioneers, but she is the last one that they have not found. So this whole expedition was nothing but find closure for, for the family. This is our team, the TTS team. We went out there in 09. So you can see everyone there. We had people that were volunteering their boats. Bob Meistrel, if you guys know who Bob Meistrel is, he's a co-founder of Body Glove. He donated. I became really good friends with him and his brother. They donated their time, their resources that we could use and utilize everything. We had aviation experts, guys that were looking for Steve Fawcett. That was right around when Steve Fawcett had passed away or came up missing. So you have everybody there, various club members. Yeah, it was a really fun team. This young lady right here, that's Laura Whittle-Sharky. That's the grandniece of Gertrude. And you'll see me in the back row, the guy with no hair. Right to my right, that is Guy Whittle-Sharky. That is her son. And yeah, we just got reconnected, just trying to get information for this presentation. So it was really nice. And out there, we were the LA Times, New Jersey Times, everybody was like, this is a hot item right now. It was Air and Space magazine. They have an article out there. The Smithsonian is involved. I mean, it was really a hot item during the expedition. So when we first got there, we landed and hopefully, and we got to our house and we had a news conference that they wanted us to go to this hangar and meet everybody, the who's and all this, that, and the other. And one of the things they had there was a P-51B Mustang. And you'll see here, you'll see Pat Maka, he's the gentleman on the left side, and Laura. Mike Fizio, he was our team leader, also a member of the Explorers Club. We had Chris Killian, he's in there somewhere. But anyway, they're all guys that did a lot of the research initially. So it was really a lot of teams that came together. And there's Laura and her great grandniece, Lou Tillman from the Explorers Club as well. That's Chris Killian there. He's a Microsoft engineer, tech guy that retired, and they all pretty much funded a lot of the expedition. And we were there, we had to pay our way, but we had a lot of good sponsors. That is the P-51B Mustang. So the reason why we were brought together on the P-51, if you know anything about salt water and corrosion, once the aircraft is submerged for so long, really there's nothing left over. Okay, you got your landing gear, your tires, probably some of the gun mounts are there, and your engine. Everything else, skin wise, gone. All right. So now we went from trying to find an airplane that size into a debris in 300 feet of water. Okay, so that's me and Laura. Yeah, I had hair. I know. Thanks. Of course, the hair comes from my wife, joke. Thanks. And then, so this is the house they got for us. It was a concrete house, which was interesting. We were right off of Manhattan Beach there in California, so it was really close for us to fill our equipment, get it ready, prep it, and be really close to the marina. You can just see all the logistics that came into play. Gas, mixed gas, because we're diving, heliox or like a 10-50 mix, 10% oxygen, 50% helium. So we're diving different, more advanced gases. And there's some more team photos. MASP, Missing Aircraft Search Team, was one of the big guys that they find airplanes all over the United States. Steve Fawcett was one of the guys that they were looking for as well. Another fellow member of the Explorers Club that passed away, came up missing and then found his airplane. But there's a lot of other UB-88. There was another local area that were divers that found different shipwrecks. They found a German U-boat off California, and it's UB-88. So that's what they named their group after. Super great guys to work with. So you can see here, Off to your right, you'll see Frank Jacobs was 12 years old and was sick from school, he said, when we met him. And yeah, exactly. He went fishing and he was off of Manhattan Pier. Now, if you know anything about California, right there, that's the airport. That's Mines Field, aka now LAX. Right south of there is Manhattan Pier. So he was on the pier, dense fog. He heard a P-51 taking off, visually saw it taking off. It stalled and vanished. So at that point, you'll see all these little red dots and yellow dots and all that. Okay. See them all on the, it's kind of hard to see it on this, unfortunately, but those are all sites that we found something different than just sand. So there's something there and it's in her flight path. Okay. So remember how I said you can either, when they take off, they go left or right, 180 degrees, hard to port or hard to starboard. There you go. So you can see the path that she would have possibly taken. Now, if you see anything in distance, when you see something, did it stall this way? Did it stall this way? Did it go north? Did it go south? So that's why we looked at all those targets that were just, we didn't know, you know, and they were going anywhere from 100 feet to 300 feet. So we had 55 possible targets we had to dive, and we dove every one of them. I was talking about tired. I've never been so tired in my entire life, but it was worth it. We did do some other closures of other mysteries, but we'll get to that. So we got there after the museum, of course, just like now down here in the Keys. What do we have? Weather. So winds blowing, seas are rough. We had the same thing right out of the west. All right. I mean, there's no stopping. So we had one day that we're just like, well, we're going to give it a shot. And we're like, no. Bob Marshall comes up. He was mid-70s. And he goes, what are you, nuts? And he goes, yeah, no, we're not doing that. So, but you'll see it then. That's Bob right there on the right. So we had Kathy G. That's the workboat there with the big crane on the bow. Gene Ralston and his wife came in. Gene is very well known for the net. He worked with the FBI. He finds bodies underwater all over the world. He was with the Natalie Holloway case with the FBI. He has a very, very long and distinguished resume when it comes to side scan sonars. So the 70 some targets we had by USGS got narrowed down by him to 55. So he personally went over every one of them with the towfish and said, this could be a target. This could be a target. This could be a target 55 times. So there's Gene with his ROV. He would send that down with some of the stuff that make you scratch your head and go, well, is that really, do we want to put a diver in and waste time? Because that's time off our body clock for that day. So, and you'll see there, if you've never seen a side scan image, it's kind of what you're seeing over here on the right. And every night we had a team debrief. So Gene would literally pull up, okay, we did site 1, 2, 3, and he would have his images of site 1, 2, 3. And then if we had any video or anything like that, that would look like, we would have it also right there with it. Excuse me. And you see the towfish there and the left side. I mean, these are just private boats, people that wanted to do the right thing, and they just donated their time, their boat, their fuel, their knowledge of the Pacific, you know, wherever we're out of. I mean, it was just every little bit was definitely helpful. Kind of difficult getting on off the boat with all that gear, but we made do. OTS, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Ocean Technology Systems. Mike, who is pictured right there on the right, he's the owner and founder. You'll see a lot of his products used in a lot of movies, full face masks, different things like that. He donated his boat, which was a Newton, and his time to help. So that was very, very helpful. There's myself and Mike, and just you see some various photos of divers, because that's what we do. Getting ready, this was one in the video. There's a video at the very end that'll explain a lot of this one, because there were some targets that I found that were pretty promising. There ended up being stuff for like a T-33 jet that was missing, that the family has closure. That a lot between UB88 and our team, we were able to collaborate and bring closure to a family. So that's coming up. But yeah, and then up here on the right, that's our friend Joe Satelli. He recently passed away. So rest in peace, buddy. You have a variety of divers from all walks of life, all technical backgrounds. We had a video camera guy on the boat as well. That's his video you're going to see at the very end. And like I said, we're diving 100 feet to 300 feet. So, and we had a time of 30 minutes on the bottom. Yes.
Is everyone CCR? Or
Yes.
some of it? Okay.
Yep. We're all CCR. It was so much easier for logistics and,
Cost.
supplies and cost was
Yeah.
huge. We had Robin Jackaway there, who is my buddy right here. That's Robin Jackaway. He owned a Deep Outdoors dive gear, and he's out of California. He had a whole fill station. It was amazing.
For those of people who don't know, what is CCR?
What is CCR? Closed circuit rebreather. So you'll see this thing on my back, in the bottom left, around Mike. It is a unit that will scrub the CO2 out of your exhalation. So you're basically breathing, recirculating your same breath. Okay. So that's the same thing that your special warfare guys use. They can sneak up on you, take over a small country. There's no bubbles. Okay. And that is the beauty of it, because when we have open circuit divers and closed circuit divers diving together, you can hear the marching band coming towards you. We did some stuff for the History Channel, Military Channel. We're filming in North Carolina, and you could literally hear them coming closer and closer, and the sharks are going closer and closer to us. Then we're like, okay, we're out because it's too noisy. We're like, I agree, it's too noisy. So, but CCR, when you're diving at those depths, are some of the most safest ways to do it. Of course, maintain your gear, gas analyzing your gas, using the proper checklist, that kind of thing. So, I got 25 dives on the Andrea Doria, and that's exactly what we did. Was just checklist, pre-dive, everything. You just trust your training. So.
What was the water temperature?
Water temp was 58, and it was pretty consistent. I mean, even to 300 feet, if you've never been off California, it gets pretty deep pretty quick. So, I mean, it's nice, and then all of a sudden you just go right down to nothing, so, I mean, and then it's deep. So it gets crazy deep. One of my real quick side stories, we were diving deep. We're in 300 feet of water, and my friend Peter and I were diving together, and he sees this gray figment coming out of the deep, and it's a mulla mulla.
Oh.
And we're on helium, so we sound like Donald Duck. And he goes, "What's that?" And I'm like, "It's a mulla mulla." He goes, "Oh, what?" It was hilarious. And this thing cruising right by us in like 250 feet of water. And it was just this big, giant, prehistoric, one big eyeball looking at you from one side. We're cruising on by like, "What's up? How you guys doing? Be safe." So it was pretty cool. So that's the beauty about the ocean. You don't know what you're going to see. It's just awesome. So, and diving that deep, you're seeing stuff that other people don't get a chance to see. So here we are, mid-water, that kind of thing. And then some of the debris that we were finding. So this is stuff that were on these targets that Gene shot with the side scan that were enough to raise an eyebrow, 55 eyebrows. So here's Gene, there's Colleen. She's trying to describe, she's a phenomenal aviation engineer. I mean, she was telling us about this Cessna engine we found. This was another aircraft that we found off LAX. I had no idea. And there's more pictures of that coming. But then every night we would have, obviously, the inspiration photo of Gertrude on the floor. But he would go over every part of the search patterns that we were doing. So it was really informative. Some of us were just like, and Lou loved his push pins. Oh my gosh, push pins. But that was our standing joke with him. But anyway, Gene, you listen to him. He's like the E.F. Hutton commercials. When E.F. Hutton talks, people listen. I just dated the age I am right now. But it was because his knowledge is so just huge when it comes to side scan sonars, and you just learn so much from him. So. This is one project. This is one of the engines that we found off of Cessna. You can see the crab there, you know, we were getting hungry diving a lot. And another thing we found a lot of toilets, lobster. And Bob Maestro, he goes, I would dump in his own little personal area in 200 feet of water, toilets. And they would hide in there, the lobsters would hide in the toilets. So, because there's nothing out
Do
there.
this, what is this, your public service announcement?
Yeah, don't throw toilets in the water. Anyway. Yeah, I mean, it was just crazy, but yeah. So anyway, there was one aircraft engine we found. Here again, now this is one that really brought attention to us. Right here, you'll see a piece of skin. That's aircraft, it's metal. So we were really, really stoked by that. Brian and his wife Heather Armstrong found that piece. And you'll also see right below that, and you'll see it in the video, is a compression fitting right here and over here that you'd use on the Packard Merlin engine for heat or coolant. So we were really, really excited about that.
Did you bring anything up?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, we had authorization to bring items up, certain things. You can see here, another part of a Cessna. And then you just found these weird, distorted parts of metal. You have no idea what they were. So we took pictures of everything. Here again, litter, drives me crazy.
Yeah.
But if you look, what is that? Crop. Yeah. So one of the sites that Gene found when he done the shot line for us to go down, went right through the bow section of a sailboat.
Oh.
And that was the sailboat engine. So yeah, it was pretty cool. So we're like, whoa, found a boat. Looking for the wrong thing, but yeah. So there again, you just find these big spirals of iron and metal, and you just don't know what you're gonna find. Now there's that piece of skin that I was telling you about. So that right there, you can see the energy that was going through the room when we brought that up and cured it real quick in salt and fresh water. And we were just like, this is airplane skin. Period. And when you pick it up, it was under the sand. And I can't remember Brian or Heather, either one of them, they saw this piece sticking out. We just went, and there it was. So we're like, hey, we might be on something. This one we were really, really curious about, because we didn't know if that was a compression tank for like liquid oxygen or for your oxygen for aviation, or was it something like a winch or something like that. So, but the growth around it was so much. You try to watch the environment, you try to, you know, you're kind of between a rock and a hard place at that point. So you see these items here. You'll see the bottom two are together. So it was a women's shoe that was found in a Cessna crash. That is the dashboard of a Cessna. So we found that, and then we found the shoe. So we're like, of course, Bob, being Bob, was there a foot in it?
No.
Really? And then the two up top are, we really got excited about these. These were the bottom part of a rubberized wing tank. So the rubberized wing tank were usually self-sealing wing tanks. So if they got shot, it would seal back up. And that was off of, there were serial numbers on it. So the aviation engineers were going crazy on that. So and this is also in the video. Here's another engine. You can see our search grid. This was in like 300 feet of water. We had a search grid that we would literally have to set up in 30 minutes, do the search, clean up, and leave. And then do our decompression. And then we're bounce diving. We had about 40 minutes on the surface, an hour. Then we're doing another 300 feet. So we're bam, 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 bam. So we had a deep team and a shallow team. And it was just literally, we had one guy that was a doctor. It was just, all he was doing was just tracking our gas. So we all had the same profile all the way across the board. So these are some of the items that we found that I showed you earlier. Throttle, console, the shoe, just various little items that we found around that debris field from Cessnas. And then we actually did have to contact the NTSB and LA County Sheriff, and they got involved, and it was a longer thing, but it's the right thing to do. But yeah, we're kind of like, we don't know if we're, but anyway, but so but what was nice is we just turned them loose on that, and then we could still continue on with our expedition. So they were able to put a couple more cases that they didn't know about to sleep. So, and there's the self-sealing plug. Laura was just super excited about that. Because I mean, when they came back and the engineers were like, "This is from a military aircraft," because it's a rubberized self-sealing port. We're like, "Oh man, this might be it." So she was all kinds of excited about that. And so you can see here on the bottom left, that was one of the pressurized tubes that I showed you in the previous slide. Where that would be from the Packard Merlin engines. I mean, there was all over the engine. So if you know anything about aircraft engines, those pipes are everywhere for coolant and everything.
What type of engine was on the P-51?
Packard Merlin.
Packard?
Mhm.
How many cylinders?
24.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a screaming demon. Still is. And then of course the dashboard up in the top left. And of course, I'm on Bob's boat and I'm in 303 and some change. And I saw this wine glass, plastic wine glass sitting perfectly upright, sand everywhere. And I see this little itty bitty wine glass. So I grab it, do my decompression, do everything. I'm in the water. I get up, and just as I'm coming out of the water, that's the first thing that comes out is the wine glass. And Bob goes, "Do you want a white or a red?" I go, "Well, what are we having for dinner?" So that was the joke. And Bob actually left that on his body glove boat. That's pretty good. So here's another from the 1970s, a Cessna T10 that crashed. This is one of the engines that we found that brought closure to NTSB and LA County. So yeah. And then the T-33 U.S. Air Force jet T, meaning a trainer, had crashed in bad weather in the 50s, and both lives had passed. And so the family was able to do a closure and find closure, at least, with our expedition. So between UB-88 and MAST and the GTS team, we found closure for one family. And one of the really interesting things I got to do is talk to Gertrude's sister on the phone. She's 101 at that time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And Laura pulled me off to the side. She said, "Sharky, I want you to talk to my mom or to Anne, you know." And I'm like, "Sure." And I did. And she goes, "Why are you guys doing this?" I go, "It's the right thing. You know, I mean, we want you guys to have closure." And it was really a really cool experience. And then there again, remember what I said earlier in the P-51, rubber tire from the T-33. So they don't pop. Okay. And then we had a team get together afterwards. Myself and Robin, Robert Hyman, his wife was the vice president of the Mars Corporation. Retired. Robert, he's a big climber. He's a huge mountaineering guy. Super great guy. Another member of the Explorers Club. Guy is in the middle there. He goes, "I'm not a pilot. I fly planes." And then Heather, she's one of the ones that found the skin, her husband, on the bottom left. They live, I think, here in Florida still. And then one of the UB-88 team members. Oh, and of course, we're getting photobombed by a guy up in the top right. And we're back at this thing not going. What on earth? No, wrong way. There we go.
Okay.
And you can see more. Guy, I gave him one of my shirts, one of my company shirts. And after we got reconnected for this presentation, thank you, by the way, because it really brought our team back together a lot. He still has that shirt. I still got it. I need to have it updated though. So, And then Gene and Kathy Ralston, he still finds people. He's still being contacted by the FBI and local governments to help look for bodies. This is my friend Dan Crowell. Dan Crowell, if you know anything about him, he's a member of the Explorers Club. He does underwater videography. We've done some TV work together in the past. He's a Mark V or a commercial diver. Used to own the Seeker that went out to the Doria. Between Bill Nagel and him, and then when I learned a lot of my technical deep diving was from that man right there, one of the guys that wrote the book. So I'm like, hey, if I'm going to learn, I want to learn from the right guys, right? You know. But anyway, he put together a really cool 10-minute documentary on the whole expedition that sums up pretty much everything that I had, and then fills in any holes I missed, kind of like drywall putty, you know. So without further ado, I'm going to start that.
On July 1, 2009, President Barack Obama signed a bill awarding the Congressional Gold Medal to a seldom heard of group of female pilots who served during World War II, the Women's Airforce Service Pilots, or WASPs. Gertrude Thomkins is one of 38 WASPs who died in service to her country. She is the last missing WASP to be accounted for.
Our mission is to locate the North American P-51D flown by Gertrude Tommy Thomkins Silver, who vanished on October 26, 1944, in departing from what is now Los Angeles International Airport.
Gertrude Thomkins Silver is my great aunt. She was a WASP during World War II. She already knew how to fly when she joined the WASPs.
Members of the family, it does not end on a specific date. It goes on. And for her sister, Elizabeth Whitall, who was 100 years old and still sharp, she helps to motivate us because she says, you know, it would give me good rest to know where my sister is. And if we could know her last resting place, it would give me good peace.
And she really enjoyed it, became something she was passionate about. And as a result of flying, she found out about the WASPs and decided that that was going to be the way that she contributed to her country during World War II. And this search effort that we're launching today is unprecedented. And it just is overwhelming. My grandmother, who turns 101 January 8th, was telling me when I explained to her how many people were going to be involved, where they were coming from, what they were going to do. Her first comment was, why does everybody want to do this? They don't even know Gertrude. And I said, well, that's what's so wonderful about search efforts like this, is people don't have to know somebody, they just have to know about them.
Santa Monica Bay is directly in the flight path of LAX Airport. Also, the last place Gertrude's P-51 Mustang was ever seen, and is now the primary target area. Experts from across the country have volunteered their time to battle wind and wave to join the search effort.
Yesterday we'd have been washed off standing right here. No, yesterday we went down to the beach by the pier and it was just horrifying. And no way would anybody die. The surfers weren't even out there. No, this is great. This is a dive day. This is a thumbs up.
Local boat owners and yachtsmen have also donated their time and vessels to support the week-long expedition to dive 55 possible targets in water ranging from 60 to a bone-crushing depth of nearly 300 feet.
Right off the back here, we're not far from LAX, her flight path, where she would have taken off. So we're diving targets that have been interpreted by sonar experts along that flight path, north and south and directly on that flight path. We've got about 55 targets that we've been tasked to identify positively by diver. We've had a side scan expert come out here and side scan as many of those targets as we could so we could prioritize those targets, which ones were more likely to be the remains of that B-51D.
Well, this is what they're diving on now.
Okay.
Fairly large object here inside of a depression.
Well, we have something to be excited about, or at least yesterday on Sharky's report on what he saw on the bottom at about 5 miles west of the coast. That possibly a tail wheel of an aircraft.
Comes out and then
And then other spots all around, but to me it looked more like flat-lying indigenous rock.
We saw a box with a winch on the inside. We saw mud. We saw a pipe.
Most of the targets that we've dived this week have been various forms of trash, really. Barrels, cones, shoes at one point, but nothing of any significance. The piece we brought up today is about 6 inches, roughly square.
This could be anything.
Yep.
This could be anything. This is just, you know, an amuse-bouche. It's something to get us going.
Right.
Yeah, the metal, the piece of metal that they brought up that's all crumpled, and to me that's the most exciting material that we have found in the search effort today.
Like Gene said, there are collateral benefits to all these searches and all these dives. We have 2 other targets now. The one that's really tantalizing, as you know, is way out there, and that is older. It's been there a while. It has all the indicators of a fairly high-speed impact, things coming apart. It's a heavy gauge aircraft aluminum. It's not general aviation, and we really need to know what that's from and how it got there.
Last day, showtime.
Tensions are running high as the expedition reaches the end of the road with nothing yet to show for it, and there's only a handful of targets left to survey. Earlier in the week, 2 targets did raise the eyebrows of team researchers who asked to take a second look.
I mean, this blows my socks off, but we're a long way
See,
yet.
this is I forgot what they call this. I actually have a machine that does that, but that's for a hose to go over.
Yeah, that's right.
So
that's right.
Some sort of a drain or a cooling.
Cooling thing on the Packard Merlin engine. You've got this stuff all around that engine.
No, I'm thinking it's possibly black paint, and the engine compartment of the P-51 was painted black.
Yeah. We have 2 of them. I found them in the sand side by side on top of one of those 2 parts that the first dive team tied into.
Spell anything. If we had something with ANA on it or a North American part number, we could really be jumping up and down. But we don't have that now.
Now the detective work begins. And if the part number's in the book, we may have found the plane, so we'll find out more hopefully shortly.
They're not North American aviation numbers, but they are from aircraft.
Then it could be
Plug assembly sump drain at the bottom of a wing tank.
So anyway, question and answers. You guys have any questions? More than happy to. Yes, Sally.
I have a question. If you found skeletal remains, would you have left them? or would you have brought them up?
That would have been at that point part of the LA County Sheriff. They would do their own investigation and everything else like that. And then usually a lot of your main go back to the family. And that's why we had the family directly involved with us as well. So, yeah, John.
If you get any questions, be sure to repeat it for the people on
Oh, I
Zoom.
forgot. Yes.
And
yes.
if people on Zoom were not able to hear the audio from that video, so just if anyone has any questions.
Okay. All right. Okay, John.
So what was the conclusion? Did you find any parts of her plane?
John's question was, did we find any parts of Gertrude's plane? No, we did not find any of the P-51. Nothing. Out of 55 targets in 6 days. Nothing.
Are they continuing to search?
They tried a couple more times. I think recently Josh Gates tried to do something with Discovery Channel, but it was more of just a piece. It wasn't really actual diving and actual research. So, but I'd love to get it going again. We just need divers and all that kind of stuff to go out and do it all over again. Yeah.
With all those dives in such a short period of time, were there any medical complications or any issues?
Question was there any medical complications with that many dives that close apart? No, actually there was not. We were all very up on everything we were doing. I know at night, there was a couple times I had my iced tea and I'd be going to sleep. I'd be listening to Jeans talk and I'm out. I mean, I didn't spill a drop. I was out. They're like, well, like all the divers, all the deep guys were just like, you could blindfold us with dental floss at that point. Yes.
So I'm just kind of wanting to, if you can elaborate a little bit more on the dives, the number of divers, how many dives each of the divers was doing, and were you doing that? I mean, you were obviously diving every day. Were you diving? If you had a week long, that's 55 sites divided by 7 days. That's a lot of diving per person.
Yeah.
Were you doing tag teaming?
So it was, we would have a team. We would have two of us.
Question.
Oh, I'm sorry. So the question was the amount of dives that we were doing in that time frame for safety reasons. How many dive teams did we have to divide between all of us? So we would do. We had 5 teams, and we would divide shallow team one day. Then you're going to be the deep team the next. So you weren't just bombarded solely with deep all the time. And then there were some of us that just did mostly deep.
So deep shallow was like 300 versus 100 and 150.
I think the question was, what was our depth range? Anywhere from 80 to 100 feet to 300 feet. So yeah, we would alternate, but in that time frame, we would dive 4-6 dives in a day.
So you're doing night diving too then?
Well, we were up early. We were up very early. We were up very early, but we had a really good support team. So we basically, it was our job, obviously, to maintain our gear and get it everything ready. And then our support team would be there, just literally turn and burn. You're just nonstop diving.
And all dives for trimix or?
Yeah, much easier, better on the body. Yeah, John.
Yeah, I'm just curious, you mentioned what mix you were using. So, and I assume you were using a variety of mix depending on the depth you were diving.
Yeah, we were doing a 1050 with 10. The question was the diving gas mix that we used for that. So the whole team was on the same page. We used a 1050 tri-mix, so 10% oxygen, 50% helium.
And the rest nitrogen?
Is just air. Yeah, it's a stabilizing gas.
Yeah.
Yeah, it worked out really well.
I noticed you had sling bottles. What did you have in your sling bottles? Travel gas?
No, we would never do any travel gas because I mean you're on a rebreather, so it's giving you the perfect gas. It's all bailout, so it's like your spare tire for your car. You know, in case something would go sideways, we would have spare gas on the boat that the safety diver can bring down to you if need be. But luckily, we didn't have any issues like that. Just spare gas. Yeah. Yes.
Hi, thanks for sharing your presentation.
Thank
If
you.
I read it right on the documentary, it said that 2 of the 35 targets were not identified yet.
Yes.
I was wondering if it's been identified.
The question was that out of the documentary, 2 of the unidentified were not identified yet, and I've not heard. That's one thing that once our part was done, we tried to, all stay in contact, but that was a few years ago. So. But that's a good question. Yes.
You mentioned that a doctor was on board and they checked your gases. Does that mean they did blood gases?
We had no. So the question was, we had a physician on board. We had dive medical professionals that were with us, and they tracked our exposure to that gas. So we never did blood gases or anything like that. So basically, if you felt good, you get a good night's sleep, hydrate. We did a lot of hydration and ate good, but yeah. But yeah, so we had a team of guys that I'm also one of the diving medical people too. So we all helped track exactly what our gas was, our exposure, OTUs or oxygen toxicity units, and also the amount of exposure to helium as we had. So yeah. Yes,
I noticed you were wearing dry suits and you were well hydrating and you had a lot of decompression. So did that present any problems as far as
well, you're in a dry suit and there is what they call a P valve. And it was balanced, and maybe the water around me got a little warm on occasion. But yeah, you had to take care of that. But then a lot of it was just experience and knowing when to kind of dwindle off on your hydration and focus on other things, and then you don't have to use the P valve as much. Yeah.
We have some online.
Real quick, Sally's got a question.
I just, what is it about these planes that made them deteriorate so much? I mean, we've been down on World War II planes, World War I planes, the Monitor, U-boats. What is there a lot of current there, or it's not shallow and rough? What was it?
The question was from Dr. Sally was, why is the material that the aircraft are made of more fragile than like your Monitor, iron belt, and different items like that from ships? Honestly, it's just because it's aluminum, and it's aluminum and salt water don't play well together. I mean,
electrical current, electrolysis.
Exactly. Two dissimilar metals can play a lot with that. I led a NOAA expedition to the Monitor after the turret was removed. And even to this day, the iron bill was still in phenomenal shape, except for where they cut it. And even with today's technology, they had a hard time even cutting the iron belt to remove the turret. So it tells you the craftsmanship and technology, they don't make them like that anymore. But yeah, so.
I have a couple of questions from our members on Zoom. One person said they heard that the P-51D had a Rolls-Royce engine. Is that true?
The P-51 did also have Rolls-Royce engines. So they did have both. Just like any other military aircraft, they can go from a General Electric engine to a Pratt & Whitney. They can have various engines in those aircraft. So it depends on what model.
Okay. Another question, would any new technology that exists today help with the search? Yeah.
The question was, would any of the new technology nowadays help with the search for Gertrude? Yeah, I mean, there is other items that they can use, multi-beam. It's obviously better software, different things like that. Just like the octopus, when they found a lot of the stuff, Paul Allen, when he found a lot of his items, he just had real state-of-the-art equipment that could really be zoomed in and see what you're looking at. So, but yeah. Anything else?
You were diving off of LAX. Were there any concerns from a safety point of view for the airport or for you? I mean, you could have been terrorists.
This is before 9/11. I'm just kidding. No, actually, it was 2000. Honestly, the question was us being so close to LAX would be terrorists. Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, yeah, we were there was a pretty big authorization that we went through. We had FBI. Mike Pizio was off-duty FBI agent. So we had a lot of credentials that were on board, so it was quite nice. So, but it was pretty cool, to see Tokyo flying over, you know, you're getting ready to dive and you're like, oh, it's 747. I haven't seen one of them in forever. You know? Yeah.
Hey, I noticed the water looked really blue. And so what kind of visibility did you enjoy on most of your dives?
John asked what the visibility was and on the dives, and 80. I mean, deep, you know, because you're going deep. Obviously, you need ambient, you know, your actual light, your torch. But I mean, you as far as your eye can see. Like when we saw the Mola Mola, I mean, it was from here to the street to overseas, and you're like, whoa, this is kind of wild, you know. So yeah, we had really good conditions when it wasn't blowing and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, it was nice. Yes.
Sharky, so you found a lot of airplane parts, but it's because they didn't have a specific number that you weren't able to tie it directly to Gertrude's Cessna?
It was her P-51.
Or her P-51.
The question was, out of all the airplane parts that we found, were they also in conjunction with, you know, the actual serial numbers of the aircraft? So yeah, so if they knew what aircraft she was in with the tail number, serial numbers, all in the airplane log. So if we found anything and we found anything with determining numbers on that, serial numbers stamped, back in the day, they stamped everything. And during World War II, a lot of the U-boats that we dove had the swastika and their U-boat number right on every part, every grease fitting, everything. So ours was the same way. Every bolt, every shaft, everything had a model number on it. So you could tie it back to the aircraft.
So some of the pictures that you had that you showed us did have numbers on them.
Right.
Were they able to directly tie that to a different?
They were to they were tied to the T-33 that went down.
Those other two.
The other two airplanes, or they were just tied to some other aircraft. And that could have been also by your question, did they have the other two identified just because they just didn't have enough information. So, I mean, even when the NTSB, when we got a hold of them and told them, hey, we found these coordinates, and then they looked back, and then through that week we were there, they're like getting back to us saying, well, you know, we did have a aircraft lost in that area. And it could have been where the aircraft was lost, but the people made it, you know, that kind of thing. So, and it could have been a private little Cessna or something like that. So, yeah. Any questions?
If you were to do this again, would it be like side scanning, maybe like really now and that?
Yeah. The question was if we would do this expedition again, would we use some of the better technology and use some of the same? And yeah, but a lot of it and a lot more refined software and technology changes. Like you buy your phone and by the end of the week, you have a full model out there. So technology changes, and you're talking 2009. So things have changed in the last few years. So yeah.
Has your dive equipment gotten any better since 2009?
Yeah, actually it has. It actually has. It was funny. My daughters, when we were walking through the museum, and when it came to the inspiration rebreather, they're like, "Dad, this looks just like your first one." And I said, "Yeah, thanks." Thanks. So yeah, the technology has improved, both in the software on the rebreather and also for dive computers in general. So yeah, and you maintain your equipment. Number one thing.
So thank you all for being here. Thank you for those of you that are on Zoom. I'm sorry we had a little bit of a glitch with the video and the audio, but we're going to get that fixed so that when we publish the recording, it'll have the actual video link in it. So people, either you guys, you know, can go to that spot and watch it again, and we'll have better video. If you're online and you see this afterward, you can also put a question or a message on the YouTube channel, and we'll get back to Sharky and see what we can do about getting you an answer. So thank you for being our board member. Thank you for coming out and being our Immerse Yourself speaker again.
No.
And we enjoyed your company.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, buddy.